Today's video is going to be probably oddly specific about a 96 XJ, the front seats, and it has the premium leather seats. Now the 96 XJ also has the newer style seat mounts where the front bolts mount in more of a horizontal fashion instead of a vertical fashion. The issue is the power seat is both nastily rusted on the bracket and the motors are not working very well. So first thing that we're going to note about this is what the underside of the passenger seat looks like. There's your two holes down here that the bracket bolts to, and then your two holes up here, the upper ones, are what it bolts to. Now there's also two holes down lower, and your driver's seat, this one anyway, is identical, but they've added cross plates here. So with those cross plates, the seat bracket is actually bolting on these holes, and then they're over further underneath that carpet. So that's what that's doing, is shifting the seat over slightly, as well as having to use different holes. It does allow for some forward and backward adjustment as well, depending on if you go to the lower hole or the upper hole. But it's sort of odd that they added those extra brackets when the passenger seat didn't have it. So anyways, what's going to happen, well, now we'll look at the seat brackets. This is the passenger seat manual. It's got a longer spacing between the studs. This is the driver's seat. You can see that it's sort of just reversed of the passenger seat. This leg kicks over, and then this leg kicks over. Not quite as much. And then in the center we have a seat mount out of some sort of WJ Grand Cherokee for the driver's side. And as we can see, it's pretty similar to this one in that this piece kicks over, and the bolt holes are in similar positions. Looking at it from above, the XJ seat kicks out more than this. However, this could easily be bent to match or get pretty doggone close to matching what the XJ does. So that's what I'm going to be doing custom seat mounts in the Jeep, so I'm not going to be bending it, but I definitely believe you could bend it if you're trying to do the same thing I am. Now, the interesting part comes in the bolt spacing. We can see that the driver's seat over here, the bolts spacing is the same as on the passenger seat, but the WJ seat has shorter bolt spacing. However, the bolts on the WJ seat line up with the back bolt and the lower bolt hole here. So, unbolting those plates, since these seats are identical except flip-flopped, it's going to bolt right on to the Cherokee seat. So whatever WJ seat this is, will be a direct bolt on with not even any drilling required to the WJ seat. The WJ seat bracket will bolt to the XJ seat. Now, however, if you're attempting to do something on your own, it would not be very hard to make an adapter plate similar as to what they've done here. For whatever reason they've done it there. You would only need a couple bolts holding it on. I was actually, before I realized that the WJ seat lines up with this second hole, I was actually looking at using this closer hole and then, or the higher hole down there, the lower hole here, but moving this whole plate downward some and making the hole slightly larger. That would also have it line up. However, now that I realize I can use that hole and this hole, the only need is to take the plates off and it will bolt on. Now, one more thing to note, if you're thinking about trying something like this yourself, with the rear mounting holes about lined up, we can see that the rear bolts where the bracket attaches to the seat are about lined up, and the front is back, but we could bend that out to make it line up. This means that your seat in the furthest back will be about in the same position once it's mounted. That's something that you definitely want to note. And I've taken the plates off of this seat now, and just to prove it, there's that bolt lined up, and this one lines up right here. So this will in fact line up and work out very nicely for me. If you're attempting something like this yourself, go for it. It's really not that difficult and just would require some drilling and bolting. So I test fitted the seat with just the brackets on, and because of the hump in the floor for the transfer case, it really didn't fit that good. So I'm going to be putting these little brackets back on, and what they do is when they go on, they offset the seat brackets by about 1.5 inches to help clear the hump in the floor for the transfer case. Now I'm also going to be putting some washers under the front to lean the seat back a little bit, because with my old powered seat, I used to like to have it leaned back a little bit, so I'm just going to do that with some washers. So this is what it looks like. As you can see, it basically just moves either the brackets further toward the driver's side or the seat further toward the passenger side. And it moves the seat slightly further back because I used the further back hole. There's also the other hole as an option, but I like the seat further back. And you can see in here I stacked 6 washers per side to give the front just a little bit of lift. So that should fit nicely now. So you're probably wondering the measurements of this. Well, it's basically a square, and your width is at 11 inches on any of these 3 holes. And then your length is at 11 and about 13 3/4. And this side is also 11, and then this one 13 3/4. So that's what you need to be looking for if you're trying to look for a custom seat bracket for your Jeep Cherokee.